Welcome back, everyone. This is Chris again with Virtual Firearms Association. And today, what we have in store is something that is not talked about enough, which is the safety and safe handling of your firearm. Of course, everyone can pick up a firearm and shoot it and kneel and prone and unload and reload and things like that. But the safe handling of a firearm, when it comes to actually doing that, is not talked about enough because it's much more to it than just shoot them up, bang, bang when it comes to a firearm. Safe handling is very important. And today we are going to go over those topics. But before we get started, I still want to remind everyone that we still have those free gifts that are located in the description or in the title for free marksmanship enhancement training, as well as virtual targets that you can download, print out, and utilize at the range at any given time. Help save you some money when you go to the range. That marksmanship enhancement training, for those of you who already are skilled and feel that you are where you need to be, hey, cool, no problem, great. It might be something that you can pick apart from there that you can actually utilize to make yourself better, or let somebody else know who's actually looking to get into firearms and don't know where to start. I know it's a lot. There's so many different weapons out there and so many things to actually learn just when it comes to firearms in general. But it's a good starting point. So keep that in mind, keep others in mind as well. Here to help everyone. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get it started. One of the first things to just keep in mind when you are handling the firearm is actually picking up that gun. Yeah, it sounds simple and it sounds like, hey, anybody can do that. But picking up your gun is the very first thing that you need to focus on just when it comes to safe handling of your firearm. So, what I mean by picking it up is not picking up the firearm by your finger inside this trigger guard or things like that. Pick the firearm up with your finger along the slide, just like how you see here. Pick it up and put it away in your holster for safekeeping. So that's one of those things that I've been trained on probably all my life ever since I got with firearms and just basically becoming a habit, well, basically having a passion for it was picking the gun up just like that. Every single time you handle this firearm, that is how you pick up the firearm. Keep your finger out of this trigger guard area, which is what you see here, and off that trigger until you are ready to fire around each time. You just don't want to have any kind of mishaps when it comes to the weapon actually going off and going somewhere where it doesn't need to go. So keep that in mind. Mental note, finger on the slide at all times. When this gun is outside of its holster, whether you're pulling it out of your safe, whether you're getting ready to store it, or whether you're getting ready to unload a weapon, keep that finger outside of this area right now. I wish I could just draw a big X to just really stress the importance on you keeping your finger outside of that area. So another thing is that when it comes to just safe handling of your firearm, when, as you can see here, this gun is completely unloaded, clear, and safe. Picking up this weapon, every single time you grab that weapon, when you have your finger on your slide like this, you need to rack this thing a couple times, lock the slide to the rear like this, visually and physically inspect that weapon, and you make sure that that firearm is clear every single time you pick up that firearm. This is for people who store their firearms in safes and things like that, and haven't actually seen their weapon for maybe for a couple of days, or they don't utilize their weapon all the time. Basically, people who aren't law enforcement, who they're not actually handling their weapon every single day, all day long. Keep that in mind. Muscle memory. Physically and visually inspect your weapon every single time a weapon is handed to you, whether it's in the safe or if somebody's actually handing you weapon, because you want to know the condition of that weapon. Treat every single firearm as if they are loaded. Then go ahead and let that slide go forward. Just like how you see here. Now, one of the next steps you need to focus on is what is a safe direction for you to actually start loading and start actually manipulating your weapon. Just because, hey, the gun is clear and things like that, you want to develop a habit or muscle memory of you always making sure that this muzzle is pointed in a safe direction. Most houses, or I'm at least assuming, at least my house, doesn't have a clearing barrel in which you can actually put the gun inside the barrel. So if anything goes off, you just know all those rounds are going to go inside that clearing barrel and you don't have to worry about anything else. So you need to figure out what is a safe direction for you to actually point your firearm because you don't want to point at anybody. And you definitely don't want to point at any of your property because if one of those rounds go out, you might not have a chance to have a second mistake. Usually, when the round goes off, it's pretty catastrophic. So, you don't need any of that stuff to happen to you. So, you want to make sure that if, God forbid, there's a mistake and there's a round that actually goes off and it actually hits something, make sure it's not hitting somebody else, hitting you, or damaging any of your property. So, put it in the safest direction as possible. So you ask yourself, what is a safe direction for you to actually point your firearm? Well, it depends. It depends on if you're in a house, if you're in an apartment, a townhouse, things like that. So I'll tell you what, in a house, maybe if you have a basement or you have a level that you can angle towards the ground, that you know that hey, if a round goes off, the worst thing it could possibly happen is that it'll go through wall, but it'll hit the ground or go into the dirt or something like that. It's a little more tricky just when it comes to apartments because there's multiple levels. Are you gonna lift the gun up high? You're gonna lift it low? You're gonna lift it to the side? Because in apartments, there's people above you, below you, and all around you. So it's gonna be a little tricky in an apartment situation. So you need to find what'll probably be the best spot or best condition or best situation for you to actually load and unload your firearm because you're kind of limited with space and in that particular area because you have people literally all around you, which is why it's even more important for you to stress as far as keeping that finger out of this area right here until you're actually ready to utilize this firearm. It's simple, and I know it can kind of seem redundant, like, hey, Chris, I know, I can do this. I've been told this over and over and over again, but it's muscle memory. Just because you do it, I'm pretty sure that people have trained or probably try to show maybe their spouse or so how to actually manipulate a firearm. These are tools that you need to start telling them as well, as far as safe handling of the firearm. Keep that muzzle from pointing at anybody else. Keep your finger outside of this trigger guard and always manipulate the weapon in the safest direction possible when it comes to handling of your firearm. Keep that in mind. A safe direction is defined as an area that can cause the least amount of property damage, least amount of damage as possible, and no casualties. Hopefully, no casualties. That area will be your safe direction, which is the area that that will cause that least amount of damage and injuries to the persons as possible. So keep that in mind. Mental note, write it down, muscle memory. Believe me, when you do things like this over and over and over again, it's going to stay with you. That's one of the things that you just need to keep in mind and remember. Also, same exact procedure when it comes to you actually done for the day or you came back from the range, same exact thing. Don't stop, have dinner, or anything like that. Go put your weapon up. Go store it in a safe space. Find that safe area or safe direction for you to actually unload the weapon, pull the magazine out, and make the weapon as clear as possible. Repeat the same exact procedures of when you first got your weapon, of racking a weapon, lock the slide to visually and manually inspecting the weapon. Do those same exact things again. And if you have a lock, go ahead and slip the lock through here, especially if you have little ones that are running around in your house. You want to make sure these things are as safe as possible. But I'm going to touch a little bit more on the child safety part a little later in this video. But when it comes to that firearm, make sure that when you're done with it, it's not something that is just thrown in a drawer. I understand that some people might have guns by their bed just in case an intruder comes in. If you're somebody who has a firearm that's by your bed, make sure you have some type of lockbox that only you can get into it and not those curious kids. Make sure it's something that you or maybe your wife could possibly use. So think of something maybe like a biometric where you can use a fingerprint to unlock the safe to actually do that. Because I know that under high stress times, if there is a break-in and entry in your household, that fumbling keys and combinations and things like that under stress, believe me, until it happens to you, you it's going to be challenging and it's going to be difficult. I promise you. I promise you. So make sure it's as easy as possible for you to get it, but best as possible to keep away from your little ones at the same exact time. All right. That's some of just the basics just when it comes to safe handling of the firearm. Now, the next subject is very important as well. I want to get back to talking about the kids. When is a safe time to actually start talking to your kids or children just about firearms? The way I see it is you should probably start speaking to a dependent, especially if you have a gun in your house. The best time to probably start talking about it is as soon as you're able to explain to them about not crossing the street. Let them know that, hey, these are not toys. This is daddy's or mommy's weapon or whatever the situation is, and explain the importance on why they should pretty much stay away from it. As a gun owner, you are responsible for every single round and that weapon that as far as what it is capable of. So even if it's an accident goes off or it's lost or whatever the situation, it is 100% your fault. It is 100% your responsibility, anything that goes on with that weapon. So with that being said, make sure when you are done with it, it is locked and it's stored away that those curious kids that love running around out here, love playing and getting in the middle of everything. Hey, I have little ones, so I know what it's like that they love to try to get into everything. But I tell you one thing, I have safes, and not only do I have safes, I have actually locks on my firearms that's inside the safe, and the keys are only where I know where they are. So just in case they want to go exploring and like, hey, daddy, I know how to open up doors now with keys, my keys to my firearms aren't a place that they can actually get into. I think you should utilize that away. That is one way that has worked for me. So safety is just as paramount. And I can't stress that enough just when it comes to the handling of firearms. The kids are just, there's been so many situations that have happened in the past with kids and firearms, accidental misfires and things like that. If you are looking to become a gun owner, sorry, if you're looking to become a gun owner, make sure you utilize and locks because they come with the handguns. They come with the firearms as you purchase it. Use it. Use the lock on it. After you're done with it, you don't need it. You don't need to have it loaded or anything like that, unless you have a safe or you have a way to ensure that that firearm is as safe as possible and out of the reach of those kids. So keep those things in mind. Again, I cannot stress that enough. And when it comes to explaining things to your kids and everything, take away that curiosity by just explaining to them when they're old enough to really start understanding right and wrong and don't cross the street or don't touch the stove because it's too hot or keep your fingers out of the socket. You may be able to throw your firearms in there to try to explain to them just how they can be dangerous if they're not used in their appropriate way. Let them know that, hey, these are not toys for you. These are weapons for the house, or this is home defense weapons for mommy or daddy or anybody else, but they're not for you. I cannot stress that enough. Again, I know I've already said that. Keep those firearms away from the kids. Okay. So safes and things like that are perfect just when it comes to your firearms. It's the same exact thing if you're taking your firearm to the airport. We have these different lock boxes that are available that you can store your firearm inside the lockbox and put it in the car. Actually, I have a system set up in my car where I have a lockbox that you can actually pull and transfer out of each one of the cars that's actually not bolted down. but I have a cable that's attached to it that you can use. I've actually posted a video or a short on that to actually explain how that happens. I'll do it again just so you can see just the setup that I have. So you can use it as well as far as a way to transport your firearm safely in there, because just like always, you know that some places you're not actually able to carry your firearm in those installations as well. So, and they may tell you to go ahead, hey, lock it up. You don't want to just lock it in your glove department. So that's another thing that you may want to invest in, is a lockbox for your car that you can utilize. And I will break that down for you in another video to just show my system and what actually works for me. Also, when it comes to flying with your weapon as well, there's a lockbox that you have for that little small one that you can get off of Amazon. I believe I paid like maybe 15 bucks or so, that you can put your firearm in there. It's called actually declaring your firearm. So if you live in Maryland, for example, and you want to fly to Florida and you want to bring your weapon and utilize the range that's down there in Florida, download our targets as well. You can do so by transporting your weapon. Make sure that your weapon is actually clear of its magazine and ammunition. I know some airlines, they don't allow ammunition at all. Some of them, they just has to be separated from the gun. So if you really, really want to be 100% certain that you can actually bring your firearm and not have to go through any kind of hassle, leave your bullets at home, because I'm hearing kind of two different stories just when it comes to actually bringing the transportation onto the plane with the firearm. So clear your magazine, clear all the rounds, separate it out of the gun. Let the airport know that, hey, you are traveling with a firearm and you wish to declare that weapon. Place that gun in that lockbox. You'll have to fill a little bit of paperwork. They'll probably visually inspect it and everything like that. So you don't need them to see your gun loaded or anything like that if they choose to open up your lockbox to actually verify the weapon that's inside. And you fly with your weapon. That's all you got to do, and you're good to go. But make sure that you are aware of the state laws that you're actually traveling to if you wish to actually bring your firearm with you. That's for those CCW holders that are out there. So keep that in mind. So at the end of the day, when it comes to the weapons and you're done, everything's over, ready to go to bed and things like that, make sure your weapons are stored away with the cable through the firearm, locked away in a safe that only you or basically the adults know how to actually access those firearms, and keep them away from your children. That's all I have for you today. I can't stress safety enough. If you have any questions or if you have any ideas that you want me to actually do a video on, go ahead and leave comments down in the section. I'll address them. Stay safe, stay blessed, and be careful while you're out there with your firearms. Till next time, talk to you soon.